A household gets a raise. For a moment, everything feels easier, a nicer dinner out, a small breath of relief. A year later, the bills are bigger too, and the stress is back in almost the same place it started. A bigger salary helps once. Lower fixed costs help every single month, without being taxed, without needing a new job, without a performance review, and without waiting for approval from anyone. By the end, you will know why needing less can beat earning more, and the one number that tells you exactly how much power a lower fixed cost actually buys over a lifetime. Here is the part most people forget. A raise gets taxed before it reaches your account, so the number on the offer letter is never the number you actually get to keep and use. Then lifestyle creep shows up quietly. A slightly nicer car, a slightly bigger place, a few new subscriptions, and the extra income disappears without one single obvious purchase to blame for it. Money in, a tax bite, then spending creep, versus a bill that shrinks once and simply stays shrunk. So the real question is not how much you earn. It is how much of your life actually needs that income to keep running. Isn't a raise still better, though? More money is more money. That is the natural pushback. So let's look at the 3 ways households usually respond to this trade-off. Option 1 is chasing a bigger income, a new role, a promotion, a side hustle. It feels ambitious, and it can genuinely help, especially early in a career when pay sits low relative to skill. The hurdle is timing and control. Raises are irregular, often smaller after tax than expected, and mostly outside your control. You cannot simply decide to earn more starting this month. Option 2 is a one-time cut. Cancel a subscription, switch a plan, negotiate a bill once. It feels satisfying immediately, and building this habit is genuinely worth doing regularly. The hurdle is that small one-time cuts tend to creep back. A cheaper plan quietly upgrades, a paused subscription restarts, and the saving fades without anyone ever deciding to undo it. Option 3 is a structural fix. A lower rent, a shorter commute, a smaller loan, a plan that is cheaper by design, not by willpower. This is where the real superpower actually lives. The hurdle is upfront effort. Structural changes take more planning than canceling a subscription, and they are not always available immediately, especially mid-lease, mid-loan, or mid-contract. For renters, this often means negotiating renewal or moving to a smaller, cheaper footprint. For owners, it can mean refinancing, downsizing, or simply choosing not to upgrade every few years. For a single-income household, a lower fixed cost buys breathing room fast, since there is no second paycheck to absorb a bad month. For dual incomes, it buys real flexibility if one income ever pauses. In many cities, housing is the single biggest fixed cost, so even a modest move outward can shrink it more than any realistic raise would. In regional areas, the win often hides in transport, insurance, or utilities instead, so pause on this for a moment. In your household right now, which feels more realistic this year, pushing hard for more income, or trimming one fixed cost that never has to ask permission again? For someone closer to retirement, this matters even more. A lower fixed cost stretches every year of savings further, since the 25 times target shrinks right alongside the household's actual spending. Now let's get sober about the math, because this is where the fixed cost advantage actually shows its true size, and why it compounds so quietly over the years. The standard guidance is 3 to 6 months of essential costs, saved as a buffer. Lower your fixed costs, and that target shrinks automatically, without you having to save a single extra dollar. The same logic scales up. A common target for financial independence is around 25 times your annual expenses, based on long-running withdrawal rate research. Lower expenses shrink that target directly, not just eventually. Here is the concrete version. Trim your fixed costs by around $1,000 a month, and that same 25 times math means needing roughly $300,000 less saved before you can call yourself financially secure. A raise has to clear tax and lifestyle creep before it even touches your savings target. A lower fixed cost helps immediately, every single month, with nothing standing in its way. Now the honest downside. Structural cuts can mean real trade-offs. A smaller space, a longer commute traded for a cheaper suburb, or fewer conveniences within easy walking distance. The trap is cutting so hard that daily life starts to feel like punishment. A fixed cost that makes you miserable rarely stays cut for long, and the saving quietly unwinds anyway. The goal is not the smallest number possible. It is the lowest fixed cost you can actually live with comfortably for years, without white-knuckling it every single month. This is where households get caught most often, choosing a fixed cost based on how a place feels on move-in day, instead of how it will feel on the 12-month mark. Because this is not a one-time saving. A fixed cost that stays lower for 5 years saves 5 years of that gap, without you ever having to think about it again, month after month. The same trap hides in insurance and loan renewals. Auto renewals quietly creep upward every year, so a 5-minute comparison at renewal time often beats years of careful daily spending habits. So before you resign a lease, refinance a loan, or renew a plan, run one test. Could this fixed cost still feel comfortable if your income dropped for 3 months? Tonight, open your biggest 3 fixed costs: housing, insurance, and any loan payment, and check when each one can next be renegotiated, refinanced, or resized. For each one, ask a single question: not can I afford this, but does this actually need to be this size? That question is where the real, lasting savings usually hide. This is not about cutting out enjoyment. It is about choosing which costs are fixed and locked in, and which ones stay flexible, so the fun spending is a real choice, not a leftover. Over a few years, this quietly builds something a raise rarely does on its own: real confidence that the household can absorb a shock without unraveling everything else around it. The payoff is not dramatic. It is a household that can absorb a bad month without panic, because less of every paycheck is already spoken for before it even arrives. A raise is worth pursuing, but it is not the only lever, and often not the fastest one. Needing less is a superpower nobody has to grant you. You can start building it tonight. Subscribe to this channel for more clear money steps like this.